Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a modern commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, one of the most ancient spiritual texts on the planet. But this isn't going to be a dry history lesson, no. The source we're looking at treats the Gita as a very practical technology for living, almost like a user manual for the human mind. So, let's get right into it. The entire Gita takes place on a battlefield, but the real war, the one that matters, kicks off when its hero, the warrior Arjuna, just freezes. He's completely paralyzed by doubt. And his crisis, well, it isn't just some ancient myth. It's a snapshot of the human condition that is just as real today as it was thousands of years ago. It's a dilemma that you and I can probably relate to. You see, Arjuna's battlefield is this powerful metaphor for the internal wars we're all fighting. His struggle isn't painted as some kind of weakness. It's presented as the fundamental crisis that hits every single thinking, feeling person at some point in their life. On the surface, yeah, the conflict is external. Arjuna has to literally fight his own family, his teachers, for a kingdom. But that's not the real battle, not even close. The real battlefield is internal. He's at war with his own fear, his crippling self-doubt, his just total confusion. That's the fight that this text is really all about. And this is exactly why the Gita feels so current. I mean, look at the questions Arjuna's wrestling with. Why are we here? Why does getting what we want sometimes feel so hollow? Why does it feel like as soon as we solve one problem, another one is waiting right around the corner? These are the big questions that come up when we, just like Arjuna, are forced to really look at who we are. Okay, so if Arjuna's paralysis is the universal problem, what's the diagnosis? What's actually causing all this suffering? Well, this commentary offers a really fascinating psychological framework to get right to the very root of it. The core issue, it says, is something called a root thought pattern, or samskara. Now, think of it like this. It's the first powerful, limiting belief you ever form about yourself. It usually happens in a moment where you felt totally powerless for the first time. This belief, this pattern, it becomes like an unconscious program, an operating system that just runs your life in the background. So, how does this actually happen? How does a pattern like this get so deeply wired into us? Well, the process is broken down into 3 simple steps. First, you have some kind of experience of powerlessness. You feel helpless, overwhelmed. Second, you create a limiting belief out of that experience. Something like, I'm not good enough, or I can't handle this. And third, that belief gets locked in. It becomes the default driver for your feelings and reactions. And most of the time, you don't even know it's there. And these root patterns, they tend to show up in 3 main flavors, all of them pretty destructive. Deep-seated self-doubt, a really corrosive self-hatred, and a kind of crippling self-denial. These 3 are what the text calls our incompletions, that nagging, constant feeling that something is missing, or that something is just plain wrong with us. Okay, so that's the problem. But what's the antidote? The great thing is, the answer here isn't just some abstract philosophy. It's a practical technology for living that's built on 4 core principles, or tattvas, specifically designed to overwrite these negative mental programs. The whole framework is built on these 4 ideas: integrity, authenticity, responsibility, and enriching. The thinking is that by consciously practicing these 4 things, we can actively dismantle those old limiting patterns. So let's break down what each of these really means in this system. First up, integrity. And this is way more than just, not telling lies. It's about aligning all of your words, and that includes your inner self-talk, the voice in your head, so that they're all pointing towards the goal of wholeness or completion. When you do that, you supposedly awaken the power of your words themselves. Second is authenticity. And this is all about responding to whatever life throws at you from your highest potential, your peak possibility, without that drag of self-doubt pulling you down. The idea here is that this practice awakens the true power of clear, uncluttered thinking. Third, we have responsibility. And this one's a radical idea. It's about cultivating the feeling that you are the source of your experience. Now, this isn't about blaming yourself for everything bad that happens. It's about taking back your power over your inner world. And doing that unlocks the real power of your feelings. And finally, number 4 is enriching. This principle is built on the understanding that fundamentally all beings are just an extension of you. So when you enrich others, when you contribute to them, you are actually enriching yourself. This is what awakens what the text calls the power of living. So what actually happens when you start practicing these 4 principles, when you make them a part of your life? Well, according to this commentary, it all leads to a state of being it calls completion. It's the process of finally becoming whole. Completion, or purnatva, is basically the science of breaking free from the grip of those root patterns. It's a state where you can be totally involved in life, in action, but you're free from being attached to the results. You're acting from a place of wholeness, not from a place of need. There's this incredible quote in the source that just captures this shift in perspective perfectly, especially when it comes to responsibility. It's a move from feeling like a tiny, powerless drop in the ocean to feeling like you contain the entire ocean within you. It's a huge shift from powerless to empowered. And this gives us a totally new way of looking at a classic concept, karma yoga. So it's not just about doing good deeds or performing actions. It's about the inner space that you're acting from. When you act from this state of completion, that's the kind of action that actually sets you free. All right, so all of this, the patterns, the principles, the state of completion, it's all building towards a final, really profound resolution. This whole philosophy isn't just offering a way to cope with life. It's proposing a radical reimagining of who you actually are. This statement from the source is just so powerful and so direct. It argues that the core message of all the great enlightened beings who have ever lived is really simple. It's to tell you that those deep, ugly patterns of self-doubt, self-hatred, and self-denial, they're not real. They're not facts. And right here, this is the great hope that the text offers. Your perception of yourself as this limited, flawed, ordinary person, that's just a distortion. It's a story created by your root patterns. The real you, it suggests, is something so much greater. And ultimately, the final goal here, what's called moksha, or liberation, is simply to realize that your true nature is already divine. It's already whole. It's not about becoming someone new. It's about stripping away the false identity that your patterns built, so you can see the complete self that was there the whole time. And we're going to end on this final, really provocative question from the source. It wraps up the entire philosophy perfectly and puts the power squarely back in your hands. It suggests your inner world isn't just reacting to reality, it's creating it. So the question is, what reality are you choosing to create?